Katie, I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so glad
this
to be here.
This makes me so excited because, like, I can't remember the last time we hung out, and it's just been way too long.
Way too long.
Way too long. Well, wait, I got to see you for a little bit when we
Yes.
recorded, and then last time we hung was at the wedding.
Yes, Caleb
Yeah.
and Cameron's wedding. Beautiful. So much
fun.
And you were
in
a
Palm
disco ball girl.
Springs.
Yeah.
We had a blast. We were on the dance floor. We had good food. We had heart-to-hearts. And it feels like no time has passed. And I was talking to you about this a little bit earlier, but how I have ADHD. And I feel like you, out of all the people in the world, really understand what that means and kind of what I deal with, but also how I work and operate, probably even more than I do. And it feels like time doesn't exist for me. Like, I can't tell when we're hanging out if it's been 5 minutes or 5 hours. Also, like, the last time I saw you, my feelings for you are the same regardless of how much time passes. So I was wondering if today you would talk to me all about ADHD with
I'd love
me and
to.
everybody listening.
Yeah, I mean, the two things you just mentioned are very common. The first being time blindness, where you...
Time blindness? Is that what they call it?
Yes, it's like essentially where time doesn't exist. You don't really know how long you've been maybe hyperfixating on something or having a conversation or things like that. And also that, and I don't know if there's actually a term, I might be forgetting, but it doesn't come to my mind, that like that space when people are gone from you kind of ties into that time blindness where it's like you don't feel like it's been as long as maybe it has. And so for you, even if you haven't seen someone in a year, you don't really feel that, which can mean that sometimes in your relationships, you don't reach out as much because to you, you're like, well, I just saw them.
Yeah.
But the other person who doesn't have ADHD or doesn't have time blindness is like, no, it's been like 6 months. I really need to catch up with them. I wonder how they're doing. I've texted them. They didn't text me back, kind of thing.
Katie, this is making so much sense because I think this is something I struggle with in my friendships with people is, like you're saying, I get along really well with people in entertainment because my friends, a lot of them are musicians. They go on tour. They're comedians. They go on tour. They're actors, actresses. They go off to film a movie for X amount of months or even a couple years. And then they'll come back after these long tours and gigs. And it does not feel like one day has passed. Like, if I saw someone a year ago, when I see them again, that same feeling that I had feels like just yesterday. It's like all that love, all that compassion, everything is just still there, that closeness. And what I'm learning about friendships in general and how I differ is I have to understand how other people who don't have ADHD, how they think about it, how they feel and how they process, because it is different. Like, I cannot see someone for a year and I still love them fully, and still it just like nothing has changed. And for them, they may feel more like disconnected, like not as connected because it has been a year. But for me, it doesn't do that. Yeah,
because then you don't feel the time off as much as they do.
Yeah.
And that's really, really common. I mean, there's tons of symptoms. We can get into whatever about ADHD because it is also... I mean, it affects our relationships, which people don't talk enough about. I feel like ADHD is always talked about with kids in relation to school, which has its own place and is very important. But there's also that as adults, how does this affect our connections with others? Because the one thing that people with ADHD will talk about is that they often feel like they feel connected, but it's not reciprocated. And then that pain and that loneliness can get really intense. And not to mention the fact that often if we weren't diagnosed with ADHD until later, we already had that like internal story or belief about self where we're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me. Like, why isn't this easier? I'm lazy. I'm stupid, whatever we've told ourselves. And so that almost like exacerbates that internal belief, if that makes sense.
That's so fascinating. I think another thing I thought was interesting is I was talking to a friend and they said, well, ADHD and, I'm dyslexic as well. And they said, well, ADHD, don't you grow out of those?
Oh, God.
And I think that's also a common thought amongst people is that those are things that, again, like kids have, or you have in early growing up phases and then you kind of grow out of it. And I go, well, it has not for me.
I don't think it has for anybody. Dyslexia or ADHD, there's no
it hasn't
cure.
gone anywhere.
No. And I mean, I think unfortunately, I put
funny.
the onus on professionals such as myself that we need to talk more about it in adulthood because it doesn't go away. Saying that ADHD goes away is almost saying like autism goes away or my depression, I just grow out of it, or I don't even know any personality trait that we have or the way that your brain just works. I think when you understand that ADHD is not an illness, it's not a curable virus or something, it is essentially, and this might help, I think it helps people understand when you know why it happens.
Yeah.
That ADHD occurs because, I mean, it's probably way more complicated in the neuroscience than this, but short and succinctly, we don't have enough dopamine in the right areas because we don't have enough of these like dopamine transporters. So our brain like creates this dopamine, which is like a feel good. It also helps us with focus.
The happy. That when you exercise, when you're laughing, all the happy feel good chemicals.
It gets everything going.
The dopamine.
Yes, exactly. Like that dopamine hit. It's part of our reward center. So if we don't have these transporters to bring dopamine into, let's say like our prefrontal cortex, which does like organized thought and planning and preparation. If it doesn't get there, then we aren't rewarded with that behavior and we don't want to do it. Simple as that. And so that's why we believe ADHD happens.
Yeah.
And so that really feeds into a ton of the behaviors, like difficulty concentrating, difficulty remembering things, feeling very scattered, getting pulled into higher dopamine activities. This happens to feel really good. So,
high risk things. My body loves them. My mind loves them, but I don't love them. I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, but why does this feel amazing?
Yeah, because you're getting that dopamine hit. Yeah. And that's what we crave so much. So you end up, as someone with ADHD, regardless of how it presents for you, what you end up being is really just like a heat-seeking missile for dopamine. You're like, how can I find it? Where can I get it? Which impulsive and high-risk behaviors. I had a friend in high school who had really wicked ADHD, and he started skydiving. And it was like, and overnight it felt like he tried it and then wanted to become certified at it. It was like hyper-focus. At the time, I'm like, what's going on with you? But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, that was how he got his dopamine hit.
A lot of things are making sense now later in life after like we're just even talking about this because my sister asked me to go skydiving with her. It was her idea. I never even thought about skydiving until my sister invited me to go. And then we went and...
Oh, you're like, this is amazing.
I loved it. My body, my mind, I just felt so vibrant and awake. And then I was doing solos. And Molly just like, you're nuts for going solo. Like who does that? And then...
You're like, I feel alive though.
Yeah, it really, and I think in high school, I wanted to be a pilot. And so I started Googling careers that people with ADHD tend to be drawn to. And one of the areas are careers with like high risk, like high individual risk, like a race car driver, a pilot for a plane. They had a bunch of these, and
even just entrepreneurs.
All those just fascinated me. I was like, oh, I'd love any of these.
Yeah, they say a lot of people with ADHD are entrepreneurs because it's high risk. Because we can think like physical risk, and yes, those careers I'm sure are filled with that too. But you have to think of like the risk of you starting your own thing and going out on your own. It doesn't come with any safety net. You have to figure it out. It also changes all the time, which is more interesting for your brain.
Stimulating.
Yes, you have to give yourself a little credit. You work with your brain, not against, which is the whole goal, I think, of treatment with ADHD, because people feel like you need unfortunately, in the past, people would say things like, especially teachers and our educational system, are like, oh, you have to follow this and you have to be like the other, quote unquote, like regular kids, as if like you're othered, which is already bad language. But instead of doing that and forcing your brain into a place it doesn't want to be, it's better to work with it where you're like, hey, if I can take a test in like 10-minute windows and get up and move around and then I can sit back down, or I can do it in a silent room by myself where there's less distractions.
Less distractions.
Like all of that's helpful, right? And that's essentially working with, not against your brain. So it's setting you up for success.
I love that.
We're going to take a quick break right here to talk about one of this week's sponsors, Wild Green. I am genuinely so excited to have them on board because I seriously love everything that they make. If you haven't heard of Wild Green before, they're the first ever Bake from Frozen subscription box featuring artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. Mwah! Their boxes are totally customizable to fit your preferences and dietary needs. On top of their classic variety box, they've just added a gluten-free box and a plant-based box that's completely vegan. The best part? No stress and no prep. Everything bakes straight from the freezer in 25 minutes or less. No thawing, no cleanup, just deliciousness. Oh, there is nothing like the smell of fresh baked goods filling your kitchen, and with Wild Grain, this is like having your own personal bakery at home. Are you ready to bring all your favorite carbs right to your doorstep? Be sure to check out Wild Grain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads, pastas, and pastries. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off their first box plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/row to start your subscription. You heard me. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/row. That's wildgrain.com/row, or you can use the promo code ROW, RO, at checkout.
I was going to ask you, what are the signs of ADHD, like especially in adulthood? Like if anybody listening to this, maybe they've been thinking, for quite some time or having a feeling that they might have ADHD, because I do. And I wasn't diagnosed until college.
Wow. Yeah.
So my mom just thought I had a lot of energy. I was hyperactive. I played a ton of sports, always doing a ton of clubs. And I was just go, little Energizer bunny. Later diagnosed. But if there's people like later in life who might be listening to this, like what are the signs of ADHD in adults?
I mean, there's a lot of them. I'll go through them kind of in chunks. So for ADHD, it's important to remember there's the hyperactivity piece. We'll start with that because that's what people talk about the most. So that you are like an Energizer bunny. When you said that, I was like, I think you're still like that. But people have, it's hard for them to sit still. They can fidget a lot. Going to I don't even know, like any kind of presentation or school, classrooms, having to sit down and be quiet and sit still for long periods of time is almost like painful. It's so difficult. And so that kind of extra energy, feeling like restless, having a tough time sitting down, having to doodle a lot, like playing with hair, just fidgeting. Those are all kind of things I would look
hair,
for.
that's what I would do.
I was like, girls are a little different. That's why I was like, girls and boys, they can do the whatever, but boys tend to doodle or like rip things. Women tend to like play with their hair.
I would braid all the girls' hair in the class. Like if someone would always sit in front of me and I'd always be doing a Dutch braid or a French braid on one of my girlfriends.
And that actually helps you focus more, where people would see it as a distraction, but it's actually working with your brain.
Yep.
So that's the hyperactivity component. Then there's more the like inattentive. So that means it's like hard for us to focus. An adult would probably experience it more in the fact that like everything's always last minute. I didn't think about that. Shit. We're going on this trip. My passport's expired. Like they're that person. The details are just like, they don't exist.
Katie, when I pack, this is so funny that you're saying this because when I pack to go on a trip, I try to do it a week or two in advance because I forget so many things.
Everything.
I will never remember everything, and I've just given up trying to remember everything, but I do my darndest.
Yes, and
I do my darndest.
All you can do is just do your best. And when you think of something, you throw it in that bag.
Yep.
But that's like, I feel like travel in general, like it shows this. Or like big projects at work. Because when we have ADHD as an adult, it's hard for us to do things slowly over time. We're very bad with time management. And I'm forgetting there are like 5 things. I should have written it down so I could remember it for you. But there are like 5 ways to work with your brain, or the ways that you actually get things done. And one of them is having a deadline. Also, if it's new or novel, that's another one of them. I'll look it up and I'll look it up here.
Yeah, text it to me. I'll put it in the description
perfect.
of the video so people, if they want to see them, they can. Yeah, that would be so helpful.
There's all those things that like push you to get it done.
Deadlines.
And so having a deadline, so the night before a big project is due at work, or the night before or the morning of your flight, you're like, shit, you're running through your house, you're getting it, and you end up making it. It's chaos. and like maybe things aren't quite, like there's probably a spelling error in your presentation, or you probably forgot your toothbrush, but you made it on the plane, you got to work, you gave the presentation, right? Having that deadline pushes us. So for anybody out there who feels like, I just cannot do this until it's last minute, even if I try and I put it in my calendar and I schedule it, like I just can't, it could be ADHD. It's worth getting assessed.
Wow.
So those are just some of the main things, because we often, and then there's also the combined. So I talked about hyperactivity and then inattentiveness, but then there's those of us who have both, which everybody's their own. There's no right or wrong. Some people have only hyperactive symptoms, some have only inattentive, and a lot of people have both.
So it's kind of a range.
Yes.
It can be anywhere here, there, or in between.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just for you to know. Another random thing that I always like to say, well, it's really like two things that we never used to mention when it came to ADHD, but are highly correlated, is speeding when you drive.
No way.
I think it's that risk and the danger, we're talking about like the, I think, and also you're running late probably because you didn't organize and plan your time well. I think it's kind of a combo. So I always tell people like, pay attention to that. This isn't like in the DSM, this is a diagnosis, but I find that to be highly correlated, and also
Could be an indicator. Right.
over-salting your food. And I know that sounds really weird, but again, it's like that dopamine hit and almost like flavors, like you need more flavor. Like you're probably like, I like strong flavored things. Again, this is not a checkbox, but I've also found that with a lot of my patients, a lot of my viewers.
The ADHDers are just like, I need to feel something.
Yes, like let me feel something.
Let me feel something.
The dopamine is so low. Exactly.
That is so funny. It's like we don't have the right we don't have the car to get the dopamine to the part of the brain it wants to be in, or it
that
should
needs
be
to
in.
Yeah.
Right.
For like adult behaviors is what I would call it.
What I've noticed living with it is that everyday activities, like everyday tasks, are so difficult for me to do. And the more boring they are, the harder it is for me to do.
And the longer it will take you to do them.
Oh, okay. It's hard. I can barely function. Like Mike literally is my rock. I'm like the fire. Mike is a rock.
And he's so
I
consistent,
tether
though.
myself to him
It's a
because
perfect
I need
pairing.
it.
Yeah.
It's just like I need that other half in my life. And could I be on my own? Yes. I just don't like who I am on my own because I feel so too free.
Yeah, you're
like
almost
I'm
in the
floating over
void.
here, and then I'm over here, and then I'm over here, and then I've designed this, and then I've started this company, and then I'm doing this. And I like being that busy, but I really need, Mike creates like structure, which I don't know how to create for myself. I do my best, but it's just not at the level that he can. And I've noticed, oh my God, her ADHD thought. Just started talking and forgot what the fuck I'm saying.
That's okay.
Oh my God, what were you saying, Katie?
It's okay. We were talking about you were talking about how Mike is your rock and he helps you keep yourself more structured because you need that. Otherwise you feel like you're like floating around.
Always.
What you're really talking about is called executive functioning.
Executive functioning.
It is that like beginning, middle, end of projects or of to-dos. And like you said, the things that you have, the more boring they are, the like harder it is. And I think that's the piece that people who don't have ADHD don't understand. Is they're like, well, it's just going to take 5 minutes. Just do it already. And you're like, it's almost painful for me to do this. And like, I'll start and I'll try and then I'll end up doing something else. Because again, that's why it's really important to remember like heat-seeking missile for dopamine. So you look at this project and you're like, make the call to the DMV. I'm talking about the most painful thing I can think, the most boring shit you have to do. Make the call to the DMV and you like pick up your phone and then you're like, I'm on Instagram.
Starts.
Yeah, immediately you're on Instagram. You're like, I'm on, I can't even make the call. Or you're like on hold and then you set your phone down and put it on speaker and then you totally forget you're on hold. And you like go take a shower or who knows. Like you can do something totally different.
I've cleaned the entire house. I've gone grocery shopping.
And then you're like, oh, and they already hung up.
I'm on hold.
And that's the problem is like the beginning, middle, end, that ability to do those things and to put that together and be a finisher. They always talk about ADHD people tend to pair themselves. And I say that because you said Mike is your rock.
Yeah.
You tend to pair yourself with someone who is a finisher. And it's really industrious and really resourceful of you because you know that you can't do it. So you find someone that can. And I do, like, not to get off topic of ADHD, but in relationship health, we find the healthiest relationships meet weakness with strength across the board. So Mike probably has his own weaknesses and you're the strength in that, right? And same with Sean and I. Like, it has to match up that way. So pat yourself on the back. I found my finisher that I'm in love with and also allows me to do the things I want to do because you can't.
Yeah, I can start things. I like to start businesses,
Of course.
ideas. Like I can start. I could come up with 100 creative ideas right now, like marketing. Like I would be a great creative director. Like all that
you
kind
are
of
your
stuff.
own creative director. You do a great job. Yeah.
But it's the everyday things that I really just cannot do for the life of me. And I do try really hard. And I've made like a checklist that helped me and like time reminders on my phone.
Those are great.
That will try to keep me on track. That's pretty helpful. But it's really interesting because the daily stuff, what you're talking about, like the executive functioning is extremely difficult for me to do. I can do it, but it's hard. But in high stress situations like crisis.
Oh, you probably thrive.
I flourish and I don't understand why. And it's just, I think, how my brain works. It feels like everything is happening really fast, but for some reason, that adrenaline rush makes me almost feel like it's moving slow.
You thrive on that.
And I feel like I'm like in the zone.
Well, think about it. It's remember we're talking about the reasons that you can focus, those ways. And one is like a deadline. And also when something's new and novel. And you can also kind of pair those with crisis. It's new and novel. Holy shit, it needs to be fixed now. Something bad is happening. And you're like, I've got this. I can do this. This is where I shine.
I'm like, I'm in. Put me in, coach.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what I do kind of in our family. When our house flood in Seattle, my senior year of college, we had this huge storm in Seattle. The power went out for like 7 days in the whole city. It was really sad.
I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if we've talked about
yeah. Northwest.
I know.
No wonder I love the
BMW
vibes.
people.
And it was, my family just couldn't handle it. The house had over like 5 feet of water. My dad had to go to work and work with the city because they accidentally made our house a flood zone by approving this construction behind us.
Yep, and they build up
We were just the lowest
That happened
point.
in my hometown too. We were up on the hill, luckily, but just down our hill, which is not a flood zone, because Walmart had gone in, all these businesses that built up the flood zone. Then where's the water going to go?
Yeah, we used to have a forest behind us, so it would absorb all the rainfall.
Yep.
And then they took it out and they built this housing development, but they built it up and it made our house the lowest point for miles.
Isn't that
and
crazy?
It just, our whole house was just underwater. And my mom is a sweet woman, not a crisis manager, not
good in a crisis.
And my sister, I love her, but she was younger and, just starting college. She was like, I'm going to Cabo for winter break. Bye.
Oh.
She was a party animal, so she was out of here. And then so I just
She's not here to defend herself.
handled anything. Yeah, she'll yell at me later. No, but yeah, I just handled everything and I didn't think I would be able to do that. But yeah, I think that could be another indicator for people if they feel comfortable or they perform well in high stress situations. I wish I wasn't dyslexic because I would have loved to have been a surgeon. That would have been really fascinating. I feel like I could have helped so many people that way.
With dyslexia?
I get really nervous with, what do you call it, Katie, with, it's the numbers for medication.
Oh, yeah, you can reverse them and flip-flop them.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, and people don't understand dyslexia. They often think people read things backwards. And I'm like, no, it's really not that. Also, you don't grow out of it either.
Yeah.
But it can be completely managed and something that you're able to better deal with. What really happens is that in your brain, it's almost like a processing issue. It's like you're going to have a tough time with. And everybody's different. So some people it's like for speaking, some people it's for reading. Most people it is for like seeing things usually is the toughest. Is like when you see the numbers or the letters and then it goes into your brain and it's processed for you to make sense of it, that's where the problem exists. Is that when you try to make sense of it, your brain's like, wait, whip, 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 it like flippy flops. And it makes it really difficult for you to correctly process and sometimes verbalize information. Do you have it? I've never noticed this with you, but do you have a tough time sometimes like flopping and being like, wait, what am I saying? Blah, 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 blah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Poor Mike. I remember one time I made a grocery list and I put it on the fridge. Mike, what did it say? And you were like, what's this word?
I don't know.
And you were like, I was like, Mike, that says lettuce. He goes, that does not say lettuce.
There's like 8 things on her list, and 6 of them I didn't understand what they were.
He's like, what are you writing? And I was like, never mind, I'll just tell you.
I'll just tell you what I meant to put here.
Tell you what I meant to put here.
To me, that says lettuce.
Did you, okay, so when the signs of ADHD, have you learned, or like, do they tell you that people with ADHD have like emotional sensitivity?
We can talk a little bit about rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what people have like attached to ADHD recently, where, I mean, not recently, like in the last like 5 years, they've been talking more about it. It's what people back in the day would call like, oh, you get so butthurt, like you're so sensitive.
Yeah.
Maybe that, but what the reason it really happens is we have to remember that when we have ADHD, things that seem to be so easy for everybody else are really fucking hard for us. And it's exhausting. And it can feel like the basic tasks that we're being asked to do at school or work or in our relationships are just impossible. And so taking all that into consideration and the fact that a lot of times we've grown up thinking that we're stupid, which I just want everybody to know, ADHD and dyslexia, anything like that has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with how your brain works. And that does not mean that your brain's not working. It just means that it's a little bit different in the way that we have to navigate it so that we ensure that, we can make it happen.
Yeah, and dyslexics, studies have shown they're average or above
IQ.
Yes. Yeah, and intelligence. And so I just think that's a great thing to talk about. And because the stigma growing up was that if you had one of these learning disabilities that you were slow or dumb, but I'm like, your information just processes different and you have different strengths, which aren't really discussed or celebrated or even I feel like explored in traditional schooling systems. And I feel like they should.
100%.
They could excel.
Well, because then the children aren't like left behind and like told that they can't. Because going back to rejection sensitive dysphoria, when we grow up thinking that something's wrong with us or we're not good enough, then we become, and it's tied to ADHD itself, but I believe it also ties to that belief of self, then we're super sensitive to any perceived rejection. So if we go out into the world later or we're trying to make friends and someone isn't as friendly or we don't hear yes right away or somebody does something where we're kind of left out, that event is incredibly painful. And we have this like kind of a resistance to putting ourselves out there, which can be really isolating. And then it can almost like, can lead to things like anxiety and depression if we don't get our ADHD diagnosed and treated properly. It can make that really, really hard. And so that's kind of why people with ADHD, when we lose relationships, when we don't feel like we quite fit in somewhere, when everybody else is invited to this event and we're not, other people might be able to roll with the punches. It's so much harder for us too. And I even have a video all about rejection sensitive dysphoria if people want to learn more.
Wow, that'd be fascinating because I love the videos that you've been making on your channel. You guys go check all of them out. I'm going to link to our channel down below. I'm going to put all of your links down below, but go check them out because I just think it brings so much insight and it helps people understand. And especially if not only if they're dealing with things like this, but maybe they have a friend or a sibling who has ADHD. I think it can really help your relationship like with your friend or your sibling, because like my sister doesn't have ADHD and I have ADHD and dyslexia. I hit the jackpot. So she had to learn a lot about how I process. And we've worked together now for over 10 years. And I think now she really understands kind of how I work, but it is different.
Yeah, it is. And it is really helpful. That's the thing is like it's not up to us as the person with ADHD or dyslexia to make someone understand, but we can offer them the opportunity to educate themselves. And I think that's really powerful. And then it can help them better understand, because another big piece with relationships and ADHD that I think isn't talked about enough is, because you said the way I process things, it can take a person with ADHD a few days to process a situation and then come back to you and be like, so that thing we talked about, and the other person's already maybe moved on. They're like, oh, I was pissed about it in the moment, whatever, I'll talk to Ro later, blah, blah, blah. You're still in it, and your brain is still churning with it. And maybe 24, maybe 48, maybe 72, like a few days later, you'll come out and you're like, you know that thing that we talked about? And then you have it all put together. You're like, these are my thoughts. I'm so sorry about this. And so that kind of processing time can sometimes damage relationships, especially romantic relationships, because we're not good in the moment. It's like, again, you can't, first of all, you're probably hurt because rejection sensitive dysphoria, you're super hurt, can't get out of the hurt. It's all we can think about. And then also we get distracted by other topics, which if our partner, especially in romantic or even friendships, bring up other scenarios, we're like, wait, then you're pulled, that thread is pulled and you're like, shoop, 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 and you never get to put it together to be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know.
I find that's really helpful with Mike and I. Like if we ever have a disagreement, it isn't often, but when we do, we just give it a little bit of time, space, and then I reflect on it. I do some journaling, really think it through and go, oh, okay, we feel different about this. And then here's my perspective. Here's his. Let's meet in the middle right here. This is good. Resolve.
Yep.
But it's funny because in the moment, I'm not always able to do that. But you put me in the middle of a forest fire.
Oh,
give me a
you're the
hose.
best.
I'm fine.
You're a
I'm
girl.
like, get it. I'm like, I just don't understand. Why would they put this brain in this body? I'm 4'10", and it's just like putting the heart of a warrior and the mind of a warrior in this teeny little body. And I'm like, how is this fair? Like, what is happening? What do I do with this?
You're already doing a ton of things. Got to give yourself credit, you know?
I'll start businesses and ride it till the wheels fall off. That's how I like to
You
roll.
have great ideas and lots of energy to follow up.
Yeah. And I have a lot of love for friends. I think that I just I love my friends and my family so deeply. And I was going to ask you if that's just a me thing. Is that just an emotional, like an Italian, like it's a me thing? Or is there any part of ADHD that, like, for example, when I get my feelings hurt, and I don't mean by something small, I mean like by something deeply disrespectful or something very hurtful or something that breaks trust. Like when a friend betrays me, it hurts so deeply that I almost feel I can feel it. Like I feel it in my soul.
Yeah,
like it hurts.
Physically hurts.
So bad because I just would never and could never do that to them. I'm so ride or die and so loyal that my brain just doesn't even think that way. And so when it happens, it's really hard for me to process that amount of hurt. It almost just speech. I don't even have a word.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Is that just a me thing, or do people with ADHD, do they ever feel more sensitive to those kind of emotions?
Yeah, I do think that people with ADHD, going back to that rejection sensitive dysphoria, I think that it is more difficult because we're more sensitive to that in particular. But I also think it's part of you and the loyalty. It's like why we love you, you know? And that is, it's funny you talk about this because it's something I've been thinking about more lately is like loyalty in life and in relationships. I think as I get older, I'm like, I don't really need like a half-assed relationship.
Yes.
You know, I want true friendships. I want time with people that make me feel good about who I am and are like a breath in, and I leave being like excited with so many ideas and things, you know, that I want to do with them. And I think that that's just part of your personality and why we love you. But it also, I think that pain, that intense pain does probably pull from that ADHD rejection sensitive dysphoria piece.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask you like how much of it is, you know, ADHD and then just, you know, me as my own personal characteristics
I'd probably say
and
like
personality.
70% ADHD, 30% Ro.
Yeah, I've noticed they were saying people with ADHD sometimes had mood swings and low self-esteem. And I was thinking about it, and I think that I definitely relate to that because I feel like I'm very confident, like I know who I am, but I do have low self-esteem. And I Googled it. Can you have low self-esteem and be confident at the same time? And Google says yes.
I mean, you can, because these are like sweeping things, right? I have low self-esteem. I have confidence. We can have low self-esteem in certain areas and confidence in others. Like we can feel really bad about ourselves when it comes to our relationships, for example, and feel really good in business, confident in that. Or, you know, low self-esteem in school or work because it's really hard and it's hard for me to focus. And then really confident in our relationships. It can be, there's other facets to our life, but I think that's why you can have both. It's never all or nothing.
Yeah, it's not, because one of my friends was like, I don't think you can be both. I was like, it's weird because I feel both.
Yeah, you're like, I have both. So
I feel both.
So I'm at least N1 in a study and I can have both.
Yeah, it's kind of like I been learning to find more self-love, like loving myself and accepting who I am and leaning into that. But at the same time, there's always this little bit of low self-esteem, like lingering. And I feel like it's been there since I was little because of just, Molly was reading me a study that they were saying kids with dyslexia or ADHD are told more negative things on a, I can't remember, I think it's like 5. They hear 5 times more negative critiques, like, don't do that, stop doing this.
Yep.
This is
From a young age.
from a
Sit
young
down,
age.
stop,
So
be
you're always
quiet.
just internalizing, like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. And it's a lot of negativity to take in. And then, you just push through it. And I think it made me tough in that way, like mentally tough, but at the same time, being around like people who are really negative and it affects me. Like I don't like the vibe.
Yeah, which is fair. And we also, if you look at like happiness research, we know that when we're going to try to combat those negative, like you said, 5 to 1 is almost what they're saying
Yeah.
of negative. We find in happiness research that you need 5 positives to outweigh 1 negative. So think of the offset. I mean, not that we're like keeping track, but somewhere in our subconscious, we probably are. But like every negative is like a tick on this wall, right? And then all the positives are a tick on the wall. But we really need it to be 5 positives to 1 negative for us to feel like that negative doesn't matter or isn't valuable. We don't worry about it. We don't still think about it. And that's probably why you still feel like you have enough positives that you're like, oh, I do feel confident. I know I can do this. I've done it before, right? We call that building mastery. Like if you get good at something and you've done it before, then you're like, I can do this. And you feel really good. Yay, right? But then we have like all this other negative shit from the past where we're like, but I still remember that people said that I can't. And like, what if this doesn't work out? Or, and we're creators. So it's like, oh, I put out this video and it flopped. Oh, and that could be like rejection sensitive dysphoria. And you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You can spiral out easier and then tie in like another ADHD trait of hyperfixation. And then you're like, you've picked up speed because all you can think about is like, this didn't do well or this flopped. And, so it can kind of bite us in the ass or like.
Katie, you know what the good news is? Those are the things I don't pay attention to because I
good.
think that they're boring. So for some reason in my brain, the numbers are boring. So Mike does all that. He does like analytics and stuff. But I do see that now. And I think that I understand maybe some more of my friends and how they feel.
Yeah, how sensitive they are to that probably. Yeah.
That's making sense to me now.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I just had an aha moment.
Ooh, yay. We love those.
I just learned because I remember some of my friends, they were really upset when the algorithms would change and views would change, and they were physically upset by it. It was like emotionally distressing, and I was like, oh, who cares? Just tinker with it and figure it out and whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and I just never understood, and now I feel like how you just explained it. Now I feel like I can understand that the thought process, but also how the connection.
Yeah. Because it also, I mean, we could get really in the weeds on this because it's also like you're putting yourself out there and then someone's judging you or didn't like your piece of art. You can see it as that way. And so people, I think that's kind of the problem that we'll see in the future with kids growing up on the internet is like that sensitivity to how we're perceived by others. And that's kind of like that like scopophobia, the fear of being perceived. Like, I don't really want people to really see me. I don't want them to like judge me. We can feel really concerned about that.
Katie, if you get so used to rejection, is that a bad thing?
Depends.
Like I almost expect it.
So that is bad.
Is that bad? Like, is that negative? Because I think something I used to think was a strength, and it's weird because I call it my weird superpower. Like whenever I do auditions and things, I always want to book the role, but I expect that I won't.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I just like, it's like no self-esteem. Just go in there and I'm fully confident. I fully commit. But in the back of my head, I'm not getting this role, so I don't care.
Oh, funny.
That's how I've like kind of construed it.
Yeah, it's a protection.
Like rejection can't hurt me because you're
already rejected.
I already rejected myself. So there's nothing. And I feel the same way when I create videos is I'm like, this is my work, but I'm fully expecting everyone to hate it, and that's fine with me. And I make peace with that, and then I just feel so liberated by it.
Which is better. I would say that like that mindset is better, especially when you're creating all the time.
Yeah.
To be like, love it or hate it. I liked it, so whatever.
I liked it, and probably everybody else won't.
Yeah.
And I get shocked when people love it. I think
And
that
that's a
it
nice
genuinely
surprise.
shocks me because I'm expecting the rejection.
Yeah.
Always.
So it's like you're setting yourself up in a way you're protecting from that rejection sensitivity that
My
you
little
probably,
heart.
Yes, which is fair.
Protecting my little heart.
But to like always plan for the rejection. That's why I was like,
Always.
that's not, because then it's almost like you're living in negativity when you don't need to, because you are talented and people do like your thing. And so there's like a healthy balance in there.
Does that sound so emo?
I mean, not emo.
Is this an emo
it's
mindset?
Like self-deprecating,
Self-deprecating. That's exactly
and that's why
my
you're
humor.
confident,
That's my
but have low self-esteem.
yeah.
There we have our juxtaposition. Because you're like,
bulbs.
I like it, but if you don't,
Everyone else is gonna hate it.
they're
so
going to
whatever.
hate it. Yeah, and I think there's a balance. So it'd be nice for you to feel like, I really like this, and I hope everybody likes it too, or I hope I get this role. But if I don't, I'll be okay. Because that's resilience. Then you're like,
Oh, I love
shit
that.
can happen, and I know that I'll weather the storm. I'll be okay. But it might not work out, but it could.
I'm always in my brain. I'm like, let it rain, let it pour, let it rain a whole lot more. Just give me a shit storm. I'm fine. I've got a little umbrella.
When you thrive in chaos, so you're like,
Yeah.
I got this. Don't
I'm
worry.
like making cookies, holding my umbrella, just like, yep. Let it rain, let it pour. I'm like, but I probably should get out of that mindset. It's
be
hard.
a little more
neutral,
balanced.
balanced.
Yeah, about situations, especially in the creative space. You know, it's good to have a tough skin. Like you said, like I go to auditions and those things are tough and you hear no all the time. And I've done them too. And I've heard no a lot of times, but then sometimes you hear yes, and that's exciting. And so it's kind of going in being like, I hope this works out, but if it doesn't, it'll be okay.
It's like I never know what's going to happen at an audition.
We never know.
But I always expect that I do not get the gig, and I am genuinely shocked when I get hired. And it's real excitement, and because I'm like, no way, this is real. Is this happening?
They picked me. Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's good to be excited. You don't need to like put everything in and be like, oh my God, if I don't get this, I won't survive. I think it's the balance of it. It's like the not all or nothing, or like, I'm not going to get it. It's like hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yeah, I've noticed that physical exercise is really important for my mental health.
Yes.
Like my body needs to move. I got to take these dogs on a walk. I got to jump on a treadmill. I got to lift some weights. I got to be active in some way. And I just feel like I physically need
You
that
burn
activity.
off that hyperactivity a little bit. You kind of burn off that extra energy.
Yeah.
And that probably makes you feel like you're probably much more patient in your day. It doesn't like cure it, but it's definitely helpful. And people always hate when they talk about like, well, you know, if you have ADHD, you probably shouldn't drink a ton of caffeine and you probably should work out. And people get so annoyed by it, but there is some truth to it, right? Like, I know, Bubby, I'm sorry, I hit you with my leg. But that is true because it burns off that extra energy. And it's almost like even with the inattentiveness which can sometimes present itself like internalized hyperactivity, right? Like I feel very restless inside. And that's where my brain jumps around and I can't focus. And I start organizing my closet when I really need to be packing for this trip when we leave in 3 hours or whatever, right? That kind of internal piece also, if we exercise, helps us get out that extra energy. And I think you can kind of see the correlation how whether it is hyperactivity or inattentive, it comes from kind of that excess restlessness, which is really because our brain is trying to find dopamine. It's like I am in hot pursuit of something to make me feel good.
Our brains are just ready to raise hell. We're like, let me at them.
Let me, yep.
Let me at
I need
'em.
to feel good. I need to feel good. What makes me feel good? Yes.
Going back to friendships and talking about friendships, either being friends with someone who has ADHD or having ADHD and trying to make friends and maintain friendships, like what's some advice that you could give people? Because I've found that I forget to schedule time for my friends. And it's not because I don't love them, because I love them with my whole heart. It's because of that time blindness that I don't realize how much time has passed. Like I don't realize that 3 weeks have gone by and I haven't called them or texted them. Because it literally feels like yesterday we were together. Like that's how.
Yeah.
And so how would I be better about that? Or what's some advice you could give?
There's a couple of things. I'm trying to be realistic because people
Yeah.
will tell you all sorts of advice that's really not applicable because it's not working with your brain.
Yeah.
So it's tricky because it's always going to be hard. And I don't mean that to be like a downer. I want you to know you can make it better, but it's always going to be something that you're going to have to plan, which is like not your strength usually. And so it's like, oh shit. But a couple things. Number one is know when we end up working the best. Like if we take Adderall or any kind of medication to treat our ADHD, whatever it is, Vyvanse, whatever.
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but any medication to treat ADHD, you usually have a window where all of a sudden you're like, bink, you come online. And you're like, I can focus. That's where I want you to put in work that's important to you that you just cannot find a way to do it. So that means that like, let's say we need to call the DMV because our license is going to expire and we don't want to have to take the test again. Holy shit. We need to do that. You need to put that in your calendar for that secret, that I call it like the special moment. I know maybe other people are like, I don't really get that. There's other ways we can work too. But find that moment. And that's when you text your friends back. You probably have like 50 unread texts from people that you actually want to get ready, or 200 or 5,000, like no judgments, right? And that will be the time that you pick your priority people and you do it till it's not enjoyable anymore and your brain is pulling you somewhere else. And then next week we try to hit it again. And so it's like, or the next day, depends on how often you feel like you get those moments and you track your own and know what's best for you. But I find it's usually like in the morning, you get up, maybe exercise or eat breakfast, and then you take your medicine, and then you have like an hour. And there's that sweet spot. And so we have to hit that sweet spot. Yeah. And I know it sounds weird, and usually we end up doing other random shit in that sweet spot. And then we're like, wait. And then it was like useless. And we're like, no. But if you put it in your calendar to do, because that's the one time you can sometimes make yourself do it, that's what I'd encourage you to do for those important things like friendships and the boring stuff that life requires of us. Or we can also have a partner that can help with some of those things too. And like, hey, do you want me to text so-and-so back and schedule dinner? You haven't seen her in a while. Yeah, I'd love that. Okay. I'll let them know it's me. You can tell your friends, hey, somebody that might text for me because I forget and I really love you and I want to see you. I wouldn't be offended. No one's going to be offended. And so that way you can you're using other people and you're using your strengths and working with it. And then there's a last tip for anybody who's like, none of those things work for me. I don't have a partner and I don't take medication or I don't feel like I have a sweet spot. Then we can set deadlines. This sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but there has to be a punishment associated with it. Like if you don't, then you don't get to play your video game that you want to do, or you're taking away a dopamine.
Oh, okay.
And you can sometimes do that and
it's the naughty corner. It's the timeout. It's
you kind of have to
polar bear jumping.
Yes.
In the pool, cold plunge.
Totally. You have to do something to like kind of punish. I even hate using that word, but punish, make it like you don't want to not do it to get that thing done. And so if I don't do this, today's the deadline. I have to call so-and-so back or I have to text that person. And if I don't, then I don't get to watch my favorite reality TV show or whatever.
I've also had a conversation with some of my friends where I was really open about it. And I was telling them about my time blindness, but I didn't have that term. I didn't know that word till today. I feel like they have an understanding of me where that's kind of how my mind works. And I'm still always there. Like if they ever needed me, I would come running. I mean, that's where I shine.
Totally.
A breakup, you need to move, any big life event, you need me to watch your dog in a crisis. Like, I am there. I'm your girl. I've got your back. But I'm bad with the day-to-day because I'm just shooting off.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
Firing.
Yeah. And I think having those conversations is really powerful because like I said, like if I knew Mike was texting for us to have dinner, I wouldn't be. And as long because I know you too, and your friends know you, and I think if we're just honest, then it removes that unknown, which causes people to think like, oh, they don't care about me or they don't love me, right? Oh, Ro hasn't texted me back in 2 weeks. She doesn't care. Like my friend Caleb has wicked ADHD also. Yeah. He hasn't texted me back. Am I hurt? No. I know that he's just busy, and also he probably opened it, was like, oh, and then went on to something else. And I'm not offended.
Got distracted, forgot.
Yes, and I'm not offended. And if I really needed to, I'd text again because I know that. I know I feel like if people understand, then they can work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. I've been trying to be more open and talking to my friends about it. And some of them have been really understanding. And then for other people, I don't think they understand. And that's okay. And I'm learning that, I'm not the best fit for someone who needs like every day, like a lot of communication every day.
I would change that. I wouldn't say that you're not a good fit.
Oh, yeah.
How-
See, there's me. Yeah.
I have to, the therapist in me is like,
I'm like,
we need to reframe.
Yeah. And that's honestly why I want to challenge myself to get dogs and be a dog owner.
You have a ton of dogs.
Because I wanted to
that's why you did
force
get dogs.
myself to because dogs, they give and receive, they need affection every day as like a routine, a habit. They need that every day. It's a constant, steady thing versus I think of cats because I had a cat growing up and the cat would just come and hang out with me when it wanted a few pets and then it would leave. It was very sporadic.
They're independent. Dogs are dependent.
Yes. And I really like dogs because it taught me how to give and receive affection every day on a very steady basis. Mm-hmm. And I love it. And I need it. And it's like a physical reminder. They're just like little physical reminders, like my little companions and my little love muffins. And that's been helping me a lot, like in my relationships, because I realize that not everybody has that time blindness. Not everybody can just, go on tour for 6 months to a year and then come back together and have that same love and affection for each other, whether it's a friendship or like romantic relationship. But I'm just that girl that would do really well in a long distance relationship.
Yeah, because you wouldn't feel like you've been away from them.
No.
And so instead of saying, to reframe, instead of saying I'm not a good fit, we would say people who need constant reminders is probably not going to be a relationship that I'm going to have.
Yeah. And it makes me sad because I would love to be that person, but it's just my brain doesn't really work that way. And
you'll
so it
find
makes
people
me sad. I'm like, I can't.
I mean,
I'm trying.
You'll have good relationships with people who get you and aren't offended. And the people who need more constant reassurance and need someone who's like texting back immediately, they'll find their people too.
Yeah. I found that the friends that I maintained for many, many years tend to be really confident people who aren't very insecure. Like they're very secure in themselves. They're confident. They're doing their thing, just killing it. And those are like usually the women that I get along with the most, and we're the closest. Mm-hmm. And it's so intimate, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, relationships are interesting, especially when it comes to like, again, working with our brains, not against it. Mm-hmm. Because I will, like, as a caution, not even a caution, just like a reminder to people that like, you don't, even with ADHD, dyslexia, depression, anxiety, you still don't need to force relationships. Like you'll still find your people. And that doesn't mean that, I can't be aware that like, I'm not that great at responding. The piece then is I need to tell them I'm not great at responding, and you'll still find the right people. You don't have to make something work, and you can't put it all on you. Like, I'm just not a good fit. No, that's just not the kind of relationship I'm going to have.
Yeah.
And it's not, they don't want that relationship either.
Yeah.
It's like you can't shove a size 4 foot into a size 3 shoe. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, right? Sometimes when they're on sale, I'm like, I can be a 7. I can totally be a 7.
I can make this work. Okay, so I read this online, Katie. They said that they have a ADHD, people who have ADHD often have a low frustration tolerance. Is that a no bullshit tolerance? I mean, what does that mean? Because I feel like the older I'm getting, that's just becoming me.
I feel that also. I think age does cause lower threshold to frustration. Is that what
they said low frustration tolerance.
Tolerance. Mm-hmm.
And I'm
like that.
Is that just me no bullshit? Because I feel like I'm just becoming that. Like, if people are all about that bullshit, I'm like, I'm out. I don't have time for this. Moving on.
It's probably ADHD and age. Because I would assume, now we're just like hypothesizing, based on that, I would assume that they're saying that because if you think about it, remember, dopamine seekers. So if people are bullshitting us and things are just never coming into fruition and they keep saying shit that doesn't make sense, or they say one thing, do another, we have no tolerance. You're like,
Nah.
frustrating by just human to human stance. Also, we're older. We give less fucks every day.
Yep. Every
But
second.
Yes. They're just falling out right now as we just talk.
But they're falling out of my pocket. I can't, like, they're all over.
But then no dopamine. Doesn't
Yeah.
feel good. I don't like it. This is boring. Oh, it's just painful.
Fake people are painful to me now.
So
that is the truth.
painful.
I have no time. I'm like, screw them, gots to go.
Yep.
I'm out.
No more fake conversation about things I don't care about. I die.
My face.
Yes.
At a
Same.
lot of
Events and stuff, you're like,
events and entertainment stuff, because a lot of it's superficial, because in entertainment there's it's just a lot of fake people. There's a lot of superficial, and I can't stand it.
Me
What
neither.
I love about entertainment is the creative types.
Yes.
I love the people who are creating the stories, or they're making movies, or even like really talented marketers who are like making fabulous commercials. Like I fell in love with the people who made those Old Spice commercials.
So smart.
Where they would go phew phew phew, and he's on a horse, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I just love the creative types, and I love to hang out with the musicians and the writers, and I'm a creative girly.
Yes.
But I don't like the bullshitters, and there's a lot of them. And I used to be really patient and kind and quiet, and I used to just.
Same. Well, I think when
And
you're
now
also
I'm like,
new,
bye.
Yeah, but when you're new into something too, you're like, oh, okay, this is what we do. Because I did it too. You go to cocktail parties and you like talk to people that like are just like bullshitting, and it, or name dropping or something. It's just like I'm so exhausted. But we just don't have that time. It doesn't feed your brain. You're not excited. It's not interesting. You can smell it a mile away. It's like, well,
I was going to ask, speaking of parties and bars, do people with ADHD tend to drink more?
yes. I wasn't gonna say it, but yes, they tend
Why
to
do we
use
do
substances
that?
more.
Yeah.
Same with a lot of different, I would say, people whose brains work differently, especially when we have to be in social situations. ADHD people thrive in like party environment in general because it's more exciting.
I love
parties.
parties.
And it's like novel and new because there's new people and there's new things. And like, oh my God, I'm going to get dressed up and it's an event. And there's so much new and exciting about it.
There's a theme. We can jump in the pool. We can, yeah.
They'll probably be late to it, but they'll get there and they'll have a great time. And so there's that piece. And I think, yes, again, going to that dopamine seeking, addiction runs pretty heavy into the ADHD space.
Really?
Because that reward center, we need to light it up. And I mean, cocaine lights it up.
See, that's why I can't mess with drugs ever. I've never tried cocaine, and I
neither.
am terrified because of the ADHD. I don't even want to get anywhere close to it. Like my vice, drinking.
Yep.
I like to drink, and then I cap myself. I give myself a deadline. I'm like, you get 3 drinks a night, because for my little butt, that is a lot.
Plenty.
And if
You're
I'm
like-
feeling wild, I'll do 4. And that's, whoop. I mean, then we got to do the breaks. I mean, but it's like, yeah, I was wondering because sometimes at events, and I don't know if this is again a me thing, because I don't know how to separate the two, like separate my personality from just what is ADHD. I don't know where that is.
I don't know if we need to separate them. I mean, you can say like, oh, this is like this symptom or this behavior tends to be more of an ADHD thing, but it's still part of what makes Ro. It makes you amazing. So, it's just the drinking is definitely, it's also part of like your culture of your family, which has its own thing.
Yeah.
But then the other thing of like when we have ADHD, we're looking for that dopamine hit. And that gives you that dopamine hit, makes you feel good.
Do people ever use alcohol? If you have ADHD, do people ever like talk about using alcohol to dull their senses a little bit?
To take off the edge of the kind of what I would call like scatterbrain feeling, which I don't even know if alcohol necessarily, I'd have to research about it, if it even does that, but at least makes us feel less frazzled.
It slows me down.
It's
so I
fuzzy.
think
It fuzzes the edges.
Yeah, I think in like social situations, I love being social, love going to a party, love living it up, but I will hit a point where I feel like my brain is in hyperdrive like
You just want to shut it off.
it's not only enjoying, like, it's not just hanging out, enjoying the moment, but it's analyzing everything when I don't mean to. It's like I've noticed that there's an odd number of females to males. I've noticed that there's it's this hyper processing of all this useless information.
Yep.
Like I'm like,
That's the
3
ADHD
people
brain.
are wearing the same dress tonight. Like, who cares? Like, I'm just like all these little things. I feel like when I watch those secret agent movies, you know, and
be a
they're
great secret
and
agent.
like somebody walks in, and you're like, you know, their height, weight. I mean, you know, yeah, their height, weight, build. You remember the details of what they're wearing. Like, I feel like that at parties where I'm taking in all this information, and sometimes I just want to go to the bar, have a little sip, a little drink, and just slow my mind down.
Yeah.
Because when it's moving a little slower, I just feel like I'm more normal. I feel like I'm more typical, like a typical brain. And it makes me feel...
Do you feel like when your brain is humming, is that uncomfortable? Do you not like it?
It's just racing so fast that I almost get scared to see how fast it can go.
Oh, interesting. Because I was like, you don't have to be like everybody else. That's what makes you special. And it's okay. I feel like I want everybody with ADHD out there to know that, like, I see everything like that more as a gift that we have to learn how to utilize versus a detriment that, like, you've probably been told is, like, you know, a disease, an illness, a thing, right? Something's wrong with you. It's not that. And so it's interesting that you're like, I want to have a normal brain. And I understand, right? I don't know what that feels like to have my brain racing, but that internal restlessness, that racing thought, racing is definitely part of the reason why with women, it tends to not get diagnosed as early, because we don't use, our hyperactivity is usually more stuffed inside, where we feel like we're crawling out of our skin, but outside we're like, so good to see you. Hi. You know,
I'm like, I need another drink at the bar to slow
I need
the
to
brain
slow
down.
this down.
Because it's just so much information that I'm taking in that I don't know what to do with it. And my mind will start to calculate actual like physics of things. Like it will start to in high school, I took advanced placement calculus.
Wow, look at you go.
Because my brain, from the dyslexia, it thinks in 3D. Like 3D spatial reasoning. And I learned that 1 out of every 2 astrophysicists who work at NASA are dyslexic. And at MIT, they call dyslexia the MIT disease. So it's this very nerdy side of me that I almost hate it, because
Hence why you like baking, because it's very scientific.
Yes, it's so much
It's all
chemistry
coming
happening. It's all
together.
the chemical reactions, which I love, and I'm always thinking about them. I'm like, oh, and then it's doing this, and then it's doing this. So it's that nerdy side of me when I'm at a party that I want to shut off, because it's like I can't. Literally, if someone's jumping in the pool, I'm like calculating trajectory. I'm like, yep. Okay, we're good. Katie, for anybody listening who may have a kid who has ADHD, what's some advice you could give just to help them?
A couple of things. Number one, talk to your child and find out what it feels like for them. Because a diagnosis just gives us a name. It doesn't tell you how it's presenting within them. Like, you're telling me different symptoms that, like, some are exactly textbook, but there's other things that, like, don't apply to you. You don't have that, okay? And that's good to know, especially because then the next thing I would say is talk to the school. Like, I can't tell you the number of times I've gone in on behalf of my clients that I see in my office to, like, advocate for being able to take a test in a silent room by themselves, getting more time to take a test. Like, one of my best friends, Courtney, was taking the bar exam and just kept not passing because she has ADHD. And she had to get a letter saying she needed more time. And when she got that time in a quiet room on her own, passed it. Easy. Because it's not intelligence, it's distraction. So talk to the school, make sure they have all the resources they need. There's a ton of things they are legally mandated to give you. So don't let them bullshit you and pull you around and tell you that they can't or they won't. They have to. And if you need your therapist to come or psychologist or whoever, getting them assessed and tested and make sure they actually have the diagnosis is going to be key there. So that might be something you do ahead of time. And then putting them in something that they can get good at. I find children with ADHD, if they have the hyperactivity component, sports are going to be a no-brainer. Yes. But even if they don't have that outward hyperactivity, especially if you have a female, a little girl, I would still encourage them to be. And also, so sports, And then they really thrive in like a group activity type of thing. So like get them into Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. If they want to be in band, get them in band. Like having something that they get to learn that's new and they get to master, not only going back to that building mastery I mentioned earlier, that builds their confidence. And it's so important for children to feel good about who they are. But that gives them that. And then it also gives them friendships and it gives them space where they're doing something else and they can make that connection. So, because I think sometimes there's too much pressure for kids to like want to do like a color and talk, and that's just not going to work. You know, you got to work with them, not against them. Was that good? Did I miss anything?
No, it's such good advice,
I
Mom.
think that's the thing too, is like, again, listening to your child, right? What do they like? What do they enjoy? We can't always assume they're going to like, let's say the sport we're thinking is like, oh, I think soccer would be good for them. Well, maybe they actually want to do dance, or maybe the sport that they like is pickleball or volleyball. You know, letting them pick what they want to do will make sure that they actually enjoy it. Because again, that dopamine hit, they have to like it. And if they try something and don't like it and tell you they're bored, get them into something else.
Boredom.
I know.
Fight the boredom.
Fight the boredom, because that dopamine, they're hunting for it. Yeah, I mean, I'd assume that school and growing up was really hard.
Yeah, it was just too much. I wish I really liked smaller classes, like you're saying, for focusing, just less stimulus.
Or being in the front, which because there's less people in front of you that can do things, or having someone you can braid their hair.
Yep.
And having a teacher that understands, you know, again, we have to work with, not against our brains. And I feel like if parents can understand that it's not that they just don't want to pay attention. It's not that they want to be annoying. It's not that they don't understand or that they're not doing well in school. It's that the way that school is operating for them is not working. And there's tons of amazing programs and teachers, and you can have supports in class. Like some kids will have another person there with them to help them stay on track.
Yeah.
And it's not about like, oh, focus here, listen here. It's more like what I would call a healthy distraction, like the doodling and the braiding and having another thing going and still making sure that they get their homework done. Because like a kid with ADHD will understand the concept, probably past what the teachers even taught. They will know that they have homework. They will probably maybe even do it, but then they might leave it at home. So it's like there's all those steps, and those of us without ADHD don't realize all the steps. Like, oh, I need to shower and get ready because I'm filming with Ro. How many steps is that? That's a lot, right? I have to get up on time. I have to eat breakfast because I need to be energized. I need to have coffee. I need to figure out what I'm going to wear. I need to get undressed. I need to get in the shower. I need to shower. Then I need to get myself back ready, right? Those of us without ADHD don't think about all those steps, but it's a lot of steps.
They're like, just get ready to go. And I'm like,
And ADHD people be frozen because they're like, that's too many steps.
that's so many steps.
I don't want to do any of those steps. Yeah. So just working with your child, figuring out how to help them move through those steps.
I love that. That's right,
Honey
Honey
Bun likes
Bun.
it too.
Honey Bun really likes that. Wait, did you study psychology?
Yes.
Yes.
I did.
Okay, I was like, wait, what major are you? I'm like
Yes.
breaking it down.
So psychology in undergrad and then clinical psychology in graduate school.
Oh my gosh, I don't
So
know
I'm
if I
your
ever
psych
told you this,
nerd.
but I almost have a minor.
Oh,
I'm one
really?
class short of having a minor in psych. I accidentally
You
took
should
too
maybe
many.
finish just one more class.
I know, right? It's just one more class and I could have a minor.
Mm-hmm.
I was fascinated.
The brain is fascinating. People are fascinating. It's the only job that I've ever done that I didn't get bored with after I like understood it. You know, you're like, oh, this is like, people are always so different. It's amazing.
The brain, the mind, personality, how like all it endless.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So interesting.
Okay, I love that we've got an expert today because I had a question. I was wondering if anyone themselves or they have someone who they love is affected by ADHD. Like, what's a good first step to getting help?
Yeah, if you're in a city center, you have the resources, right? Meaning like health insurance or the money to pay, getting them assessed. Meaning you have to go to usually a psychologist. You can even call your insurance company, or if they're already maybe seeing a therapist, they can refer you out. But you need to get an assessment so you get that actual like paper that says, yes, they have ADHD, because that's going to be helpful in so many ways when it comes to getting more resources, meaning like more time for tests and getting to take that in a room on their own, or even getting therapy and medication paid for. All that has to start with the assessment. So I think that's a good first step. Now, let's say you're like, Katie, I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't have any money and this is not available to me. Then I would encourage you to educate yourself, because there's so much information out there. Just make sure it's from a reputable source. I mean, like the Mayo Clinic's a good place to start, or even my videos. All of the stuff that I do is always research-based. I don't make things up. It's always, and I refer, like in the description, I'll reference the research articles that I read or that I'm talking about. So you can educate yourself, because then you can learn, yes, we should probably still work towards that assessment, but in the meantime, we can have some tangible tools and an understanding about what's happening.
That's really helpful. I hope that helps a lot of people, because
Me too.
I think that if I was diagnosed earlier, a lot more things would have made sense.
Totally. And then you wouldn't have had such a negative belief about who you are or your abilities. That's what always hurts me with kids, is like they need to hear that you actually have a gift. We just have to figure out how to work with it, right? It's like getting a new toy and you're like, where does this part go? And it's like, if you knew how to put that together and make it work for you, then it would have been so much better. And your self-esteem would be so much higher, and your confidence would be so much higher.
You start to think about all those things and you're like, wow, it's building up. It's like compiling.
Seriously.
So here's some feedback from my sister. My sister told me that sometimes when we're talking, I interrupt her.
Probably all the time. That's an ADHD trait.
That's so rude, and I don't mean to.
I mean, yes, but it's not intentional. Again, like you said, it'd be rude if you were doing it on purpose because you're like, I know better, kind of that. But that's not you. When it comes to ADHD, the reason that we interrupt is because it's honestly a compliment. This is what I know this sounds, people are going to be like, what? It's actually a compliment, because that means you're excited about the conversation usually, and you're wanting to move it along to the things that you're like, oh my God,
more,
yes, we're talking about this. And it's so exciting. And so again, dopamine seek, you're like, move on to the next dopamine thing. I like this. This is cool. Let's talk about this.
Pick up the pace. Let's go.
Yes,
this is exciting.
You're on track with them. It is usually that. In some cases, it can be, you're boring me and I need to move things along. So if they're talking about something that you're like, I don't know, I'm not interested, this is boring, which happens a lot in conversation because we're different people. You can be like, I'm going to move this in a direction to something that's interesting. So that would be, I feel like if an interruption turns into like a tangent, then that's usually like, this is boring, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And you can't help it. It's that dopamine seeking, but being aware of it and having your sister be aware of it and be like, I'm going to try my best to not, because I know it seems hurtful, but it's not done in a hurtful way. It's like our brain, for you to like sit on your hands and not do it, it's like, and also your brain's already gone there. So then you're not even in the conversation. But the fact that you're interrupting is like you're trying to bring them along with you. You're like, okay, this is boring, so let's move on to this. You're like, come with me. I can't be here anymore.
Have you ever? Oh my gosh, is this rude? Yeah, it's rude. Okay, never mind. I was like, is that rude? It's like sometimes when my sister's talking, I get really excited about what she's saying, and I do that without even, and it's an accident. And then other times, sometimes she's talking, and I already know what she's going to say.
You're like, we've talked about the same thing
it's
before.
It's coming. I already know. I'm like, skip.
You're like,
I already know what you're
forward.
going to say. I've already responded. Then you've said this, then I've said this. Like I've had this whole conversation. I know how this conversation is going to go. So let's just skip to this part so that we can be productive. And I realize that that's kind of rude. But
it's because your brain is like, I already know this is boring. It's not new. It's not exciting.
I know what's happening. I know what's going to happen.
Yep.
So it's just like,
yep.
That's right, Blueberry.
Blueberry agrees.
The snores. That's
Says,
exactly.
I'm so bored.
I know. So I would say, yeah. So if anyone listening, if you have any friends who have ADHD or a family member, just know that interrupting may take place. And in my case, it's not intentional. Most all the time, it is not intentional. Once in a while,
We all do it once in a while.
Yeah, when Molly's on a repeat record, I can't. I'm just like, yeah. Heard it.
I mean, I even said that to my mom the other day. I'm like, you told me this story already, right? You can, sometimes we say stuff like that. We're like, I've already heard this.
like, and my family repeats things a lot.
Everybody's family does. I
And
think,
that's
right?
going to be me. I'm going to turn into my mom. It happens.
It happens. It happens slowly. We don't see it coming, and then bam.
Boom, I'm my mom.
Yep. Then you start saying stuff, and you're like,
Then I'm telling Mike the same story 10 times. And he's like, Ro, you've told me this 3 times. And I say the same thing to my mom.
With our partners. We have nothing new. I'm like, you were with me all day. I have no
My
new
favorite part
stories.
is Ro and I will go to like a dinner with somebody, and then we'll get home, and Ro will be like, "Oh my God, we talked about this and this and this and this." I'm like, I know,
I was there.
literally there. That part of the conversation. It's just because she's excited, but it's so like I don't know anyone else that does that, where she tells me the story like I wasn't there. And she knows I was there, and she knows that I know.
Well, it's kind of like my brain is like on this like happy little recap.
She's processing with you.
Yeah,
totally.
I am processing with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, like we'll go to dinner and we like have a great time, and then I'm with Mike in the car, and I'm like, that was so funny when they said this. Like I'll relive a really funny joke or a really happy moment. I'm like, this was just wonderful when, and then they said this, and then I went, that's so funny, and then Mike's like, I was there, I know. I'm like,
I already know this story.
It's like, what's the response? Am I supposed to be like, oh, really? Or like,
Yeah.
I know I was there. It's just so funny to me.
Yeah.
And it's
You're
weird.
Like, yeah, they did.
duh, no shit. Mike's like, but I do that for like after a big fun event or like a memory, like a big imprinting day that I'll just kind of like relive those happy little moments for just a day or so.
Yeah,
like
you're
it just
processing
kinda,
it still. Again,
kinda
that
sparkles.
that slower process too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like those little moments that really sparkle and shine and stand out to me. My brain likes to just go back to, and it's like, these are really nice. I really love these warm, fuzzy feelings. Like if there was going to be a highlight reel, my brain is like picking out the highlight reel.
Oh, cute.
And it's like this and this and this. Katie, thanks for hanging out with me and chatting today about all things ADHD. This was amazing. I'm hoping that it helps some listeners today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. It's super fun. There's so much we could talk about too. So, and it's just good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And also, I'll be a guest on her podcast. So when that comes out, I will put a link down below as well. So go check it out because we are going to be tickety-talking. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening.